A family can live here, I'm quite sure, for about one half what they can there and far more comfortably. Meat costs but little. Flour is better and cheaper. Fruit is nothing almost. Very little fire is needed, and such warm, expensive houses are not necessary. Have given you a truthful description of my experience so far. I came across a directory of this country just now. I take a few ideas from it. The cause of the great growth and prosperity of this place, Santa Rosa, just now is the new railroad which has given it a start. It is the county seat and is called the prettiest town in the state. It is noted for its polite and obliging people. It is situated in a marvelously fertile valley containing 100 square miles. The educational advantages are ahead of any California city of its size. The above is from the directory. Wasn't that parenthesis astute? But I will always on the trail of my life work, or the other way around. In a letter written November 9th, 1875, I encountered this paragraph. I took a long walk today. I found enough new and curious plants in a wild spot of about an acre to set a botanist mad. There is an old surveyor who knows nearly all the plants here. I'm going to take a batch to him this evening. He is very much interested in them. My botany tells the names of only a few California plants. Some of them have no names. Later on in the same letter I read, have a job of lathing for next week. As a matter of fact, I failed to get it, but that mattered little. Charles Darwin's Cross and Self-Fertilization in the Vegetable Kingdom was published in 1877, and it was not long before I had a copy. I had spent my first months in California studying the country, comparing various localities as to suitability for my purposes, earning my way with whatever came along to be done, and experimenting with plant development. I soon knew most of the native plants and herbs that came under my notice, and I remember being greatly interested in the California poppy, which I had never seen equaled for color and profuseness of blossom. The hills being mantled with them in the late spring until it was easy to believe early discoverers might have given the opening to San Francisco Bay the euphonious title, the Golden Gate, because of the color on the Berkeley Hills opposite that entrance to the harbor. Later, I had a lot of fun with the poppy by carefully planned cross-fertilization and then selection. I was able to get color in the poppy from the clearest white to a deep red. At any rate, from the first, I found plenty to interest me and plenty to study before I came upon Darwin's new book. One sentence in the very introductory chapter of that volume opened the door of my mind and took possession of my fancy. After discussing briefly the marvel of cross and self-fertilization in plants, Darwin said, as plants are adapted by such diversified and effective means for cross-fertilization, it might have been inferred from this fact alone that they derived some great advantage from the process, and it is the object of the present work to show the nature and importance of the benefits thus derived. Advantages and benefits. Darwin was writing of the plants themselves. I was thinking of mankind. If nature had developed an incredible system by which plants could recreate and diversify and improve themselves for their own benefit and advantage, why should not nature be induced to employ that same system for the benefit and advantage of man? It was my starting point, and it was Darwin again. You see, we have a lot of new wants coming on all the while. It is the natural thing with man. The first main want is food, then clothing and shelter. If we can get plants, not just a few plants, but all plants, to produce food, we have certainly accomplished something that is the most important of all, perhaps. Then another thing, flavor and keeping qualities. All these things are wants. Flavor is just as important as nutritive value, because people generally cannot digest things as well if they have not a pleasant flavor. food cooked by an artist will keep a man in absolutely perfect health, while food cooked by a bungler will drive a man to drink as sure as fate. I've been accused of exaggerating the importance of this, but I don't mind. I declare that a meal prepared by a person who loves you will do you more good than any average cooking. And on the other side of it, a person who dislikes you is bound to get that dislike into your food without intending to. Then we need shelter. We need trees that grow very rapidly, more rapidly than those we have now. We need those that produce lumber, durable lumber, and lumber for different uses, whether for building houses or making axe helves. There are various uses for very strong and very fine lumber, increasing all the time. We need fuel, of course, although that need is being met by development of electricity and by water, power, and coal. Then we need clothing. We need hemp and flaxes and various new plants that will produce more fiber for less labor, and that will do this less on less land without taking any more from the land. This last is a point often overlooked, yet of the greatest importance. In America, we feel we have all the land we need, that we have land to spare. But if you are looking for a farm, for instance, you will find this is hardly true. Millions of acres of land are not tillable or have no water. The good land is pretty well all in use. Some of it has been practically used up and must be made over either by nature or with artificial means before it can be used again. The best land costs so much that you can hardly afford to pay the owner a premium for giving you a whack at it. And so we are, today, right up against the problem of making the land do more work with less exhaustion. We need, moreover, a great many other things that we do not now produce in America, but that we could produce. Take rubber as an example. There's a great hue and cry because it costs as much to put new tires on an automobile as it used to buy a good team and sidebar buggy. We are dependent on other countries for our rubber, and there is no reason why we should be. I notice some of my friends in the rubber business have wakened up to the possibilities here. I talked to one of them about it a few years ago when he was here, and he pricked up his ears and looked as though he had caught an idea or so. We can do anything in America we set our minds and hands to doing. If we have one weakness more dangerous than another, it is the weakness of being satisfied and complacent about things, of not getting stirred up enough over our own lacks. There is another need we have, the need for more beauty. We have neglected this aspect of life too much. We have taken what we had and not minded very much to increase our aesthetic appetites or to feed them. We need beautiful lumber, and we need shapely and beautiful ornamental trees. We want fragrant flowers, 1,000 things that make life well worth living in the shape of ornament and beauty, and things that, to many of us, seem superfluous, or at least not absolutely necessary, but they are just the same. These are only a few of the possibilities in plant breeding and development. They were possibilities when I started in, and they are still possibilities. I could see a great many of them and began to try to work some of them out. It is interesting to me, in retrospect, to recall that I was, in most senses, a pioneer in this chosen field of mine. And I think this fact stimulated and urged on me. There were no precedents to go on in plant development. Darwin had experimented with pollination, but only for the purpose of discovering and setting down laws. He made important and absolutely new findings, but when he had made them and set them down, he left it to others to make the rules useful. There had been plant breeding in England, where they had worked with roses, and in Holland, where there had been great interest in tulips. I think, too, that there had always been a more or less unconscious selection practiced, maybe all over the world. For instance, the ancients who planted figs or pomegranates undoubtedly took their cuttings from the best and biggest trees that bore well, and so they developed generally some good figs and pomegranates by selection, without their calling it that. There hadn't been, though, any broad experimentation or research or practice of this business improving plants so that they would be of more use and benefit and advantage to man. Right away, I found that all the facts in life and nature are correlated. I saw that this specialty of mine, that you might think didn't amount to much, and that at any first-rate gardener could contrive, was a sort of cross-country trip through the whole field of natural science. To arrive anywhere, you needed something more than a definite idea of your destination. You needed a diagram of the lay of the land all around. But that is true generally. It is something all of us, no matter what our job in life may be, might be better off for considering. Because you cannot judge a man, for instance, by studying him alone, or even by studying a man alone. You cannot know much about an elephant by studying elephants alone. You have to learn about habits and tendencies, surroundings, and about the things on which the individual is dependent and which go to make him and his actions possible or necessary, as the case may be. You cannot become an authority on grasses, the grasses fit to eat and those not fit to eat. All grasses fit to eat have seeds, just from studying grasses. No, the fact is that you cannot see all of the facts about anything by just looking at that thing itself. To learn part of the essential truth about grasses, for instance, you have to study the cow. When you delve into one little narrow subject, such as plant breeding, we'll say, or the barber trade, or keeping house, or operating a telephone switchboard, the more you know about chemistry and astronomy and human nature in general, the more successful you're going to be. Because you know where to place each fact that comes to you in your training and your practice. You see, if you do not know where to place your facts, they're not good for much. A fact is relative, and if it is placed out of its relative position, it apparently is not a fact, often. But get your facts to line up in their proper position and everything is all right, like soldiers. A general gets them lined up and he can march them forward to accomplish whatever he desires. So unless facts are marshaled together, substantiate, and complement each other, they are not worth much. Some people bear down on a single fact and wear it all out. But there are other facts related to the fact which, if they were brought together and put in their proper order and sequence, would illuminate a whole city street. That is what I discovered very early of my work. To get all the facts on every side of the subject. And then, when I went ahead, I knew my way and wasn't groping around or barking up wrong trees or wasting time building fine theories on unstable premises. At that time, I had a pretty good background of scientific reading. I had had 10 years of actual work with plants and a lifetime of interest in them and curiosity about them, and I had fundamental rules for my work pretty clearly in mind. But how could one man, in his single lifetime, have much of an influence on the vegetable world, when about all that most experimenters in any line had been able to do was to specialize on one single branch and die leaving the work unfinished? Here I was, keen to break trail in every direction, to improve ornamental trees, to find some laws about lumber trees, to make more beautiful and finer and more gracious flowers, and to give the farmer and gardeners of the world earlier varieties, better flavored fruits and vegetables, sturdier and heavier bearing grains, and more profitable varieties of all sorts and kinds. It was a large order,